In a modern conflict, the opening phase is an instantaneous, cascading failure of the systems keeping humanity alive, unfolding in minutes rather than months. The very infrastructure that built the modern world has inadvertently become its most fragile and lethal vulnerability. Minute Zero begins with a wave of weaponized code injected directly into a nation's critical digital infrastructure. The results of those cyber attacks materialize instantly in the physical world. Regional electrical grids fail, shutting off power to millions of homes, zeroing out digital banking ledgers, and taking life-saving hospital equipment offline. Without steady power to maintain ground control, communication and GPS satellites are rendered useless or are actively targeted and disabled. The sudden drop in internet and navigational data creates an immediate global blindness. In the absence of reliable communication, weaponized social media misinformation fills the void. The resulting public panic forces governments to declare martial law and enforce strict curfews, operating with only minutes to assess the threat and react. Before a single bullet is fired across a physical border, a targeted digital blackout effectively strips a nation of its ability to coordinate its own defense or sustain its civilian population. Within days and weeks, that digital paralysis bleeds directly into the global economy. International trade routes freeze, and stock markets crash as physical supply chains lose their digital tracking and coordination systems. Nations that rely heavily on imports feel the economic stress immediately. A logistics freeze cuts off the steady flow of foreign crude oil, halting the transportation networks needed to move essential goods across borders. Over the following months, the fuel shortage hits agriculture. Without diesel for heavy machinery and a constant supply of chemical fertilizers, commercial farming operations break down entirely, leaving massive plots of land abandoned. This map shows how our food logistics network moves crops from rural farms to major urban centers. When the fuel and tracking systems fail, these distribution lines break down one by one, cutting off import-reliant cities from their caloric lifelines. As the lines vanish, the human cost scales up rapidly. This chart measures the resulting spike in urban populations, tracking the acute shortages. Millions of people suddenly find themselves without reliable access to food or clean drinking water. With food and water distribution paralyzed, millions of people flee lawless, starved zones toward neighboring borders. This mass exodus creates a logistical crisis that overwhelms international aid capacity and exhausts the resources of even the most stable regions. The initial collapse of computer code eventually turns basic biological survival into the primary battlefield, displacing ordinary citizens and transforming them into millions of desperate refugees. While the supply chains fracture, the conflict between militaries continues to escalate. Once rival nations exhaust their conventional ground forces and physical resources, the ultimate shadow of modern warfare emerges: the deployment of nuclear weapons. We have a clear historical record of what this level of escalation looks like. Early atomic weapons left the skeletal remains of the Hiroshima Dome surrounded by total devastation, proving the capacity for a single warhead to vaporize an entire city instantly. The destruction extends more past the initial blast radius. The resulting radiation contamination poisons local ecosystems, causing severe illness and multi-generational genetic damage for anyone who survives the initial strike. This diagram illustrates the scientific theory of a nuclear winter. Massive thermal plumes of smoke and soot from burning cities rise high into the stratosphere, physically blocking incoming solar radiation. This blocks sunlight, triggering rapid global cooling and guaranteeing worldwide crop failure. This is exactly why real-world safety nets are functioning right now. Global diplomacy, complex international trade agreements, and cooperative organizations were designed specifically to create diplomatic friction and halt this kind of rapid military escalation. Because the timeline of systemic collapse is so rapid and the resulting destruction is so absolute, there is no strategic victory to be found in fighting a third world war. The only way to survive it is to ensure that minute zero never happens.